This is WNEP's Pennsylvania Outdoor Life. Join us for streamside adventures. Days in the field with new and old friends. It's all about making memories and following traditions. And exciting hunting experiences with interesting people. We've captured the beauty and majesty of the great outdoors, and it's all next on Pennsylvania Outdoor Life.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pennsylvania Outdoor Life. I'm Don Jacobs in the Pennsylvania Outdoor Life cabin, still looking back at 40 years of amazing television. We've had so many different people as hosts, so many different experts along the way. I'm standing here in front of the deer and bear for a reason. We have always been there for groundbreaking research. I do believe that Pennsylvania Outdoor Life was started in 1982 to promote hunting, fishing, and the great outdoors. I don't think the original producers ever thought it would play such a huge role in educating the audience about wildlife and aquatic life. We stalked, rehabilitated, researched, trapped, released, studied, and/or reintroduced hundreds of fish and animals over 40 years. The Pennsylvania Game Commission's black bear biologist, Gary Alt, very quickly included Pennsylvania Outdoor Life in all of his research. Our crews looked on as he conducted groundbreaking research on denning behavior, bear movement, and cub behavior.
Now, on previous trips, I noticed that you fooled the female by putting Vicks Vapor Rub on her nose, but you're doing something different here today. What was the idea of handling it the way you did?
Well, during the denning period, of course, you don't have to fool them at all. They'll just take the cubs. After the denning period, you have two alternatives. One is to immobilize the mother bear and put Vicks in her nose so she doesn't smell the cub. The other, which we tried last year for the first time that worked, was just to simply take quite a large quantity of Vicks and rub it over the body of the cub. And when the mother went to smell the cub, she would get Vicks on her nose. That also will trick her, and it'll work, keep the cub from being killed. She will adopt it.
He introduced some of the most sweeping changes to bear management in the history of Pennsylvania, and it was all done through the use of sound biology and research. Many of his practices and procedures are still in place today. Bear cubs are tagged at a very young age to help keep track of their population. In fact, we recently trapped black bears with Game Commission biologist Kevin Wenner in an effort to stay informed about bears on game lands.
So this tagging and monitoring is important in sort of gauging how those increased hunting opportunities are impacting the overall population, and if it's in fact, helping us reach the bear management goals that we want to have here in Pennsylvania.
After 22 years as the bear biologist, Gary was asked to switch to white-tailed deer. In 1999, Gary was put in charge of the newly formed Deer Management Section of the Commission's Bureau of Wildlife Management. Alt believed that the research had to start from scratch, and it started with fawns and fawn mortality.
Where habitats are poor and nutrition is poor, like we see in this area, the average weights of fawns will be lower than it will in other areas. And if the doe doesn't have enough nutrition during the pregnancy, then she can't continue the pregnancy. She may give birth to stillborns, this is a possibility, or the fawns are so weak at birth they can't survive.
Gary was interested in the timing of the rut in PA, as well as deer movement. Hours upon hours were spent putting radio collars and tags on deer, and we were there to capture it all. Every method was used to trap and handle the whitetails. I particularly enjoyed watching a net drop on baited deer.
All right, I'm going to drop. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Clover traps in the winter were another surefire way to trap one deer at a time. The key was to get into the trap and calm them down for processing.
Button buck.
And even cannon nets were used to help get collars and tags on as many whitetail as possible. Once the research started coming in, Gary Alt introduced changes such as antler restrictions, wildlife management units, and much more liberal antlerless deer seasons. We were there to keep you informed. The Pennsylvania elk herd has also been an interesting and captivating subject. We spent many days in elk country with Pennsylvania Game Commission elk biologist Raleigh Cogan. Back in the 1990s, Raleigh spearheaded an effort to relocate some of the elk and expand the range. The Trap and Transfer project was groundbreaking and exciting. Even cows were trapped and transferred. They were caught using huge cages. Now, the herd is being closely watched and monitored. The elk herd in Pennsylvania is healthy and even supports an elk hunting season. And now on to a much smaller mammal. We closely follow the reintroduction of the fisher. The Game Commission's fisher introduction started in 1994 and continued for 4 years. Graduate student Denise Mitchelltree took on the project.
When fishers come down from New Hampshire and New York, they stay at the university for 2 weeks or maybe a little longer, and we put them through a series of tests to make sure they're not carrying disease, make sure they're not injured. We put a little fat on them basically for their release in the wild, and what we do is we bring them out here to the animal hospital, and we're testing some canine distemper vaccinations and running regular blood work to get an idea of what the fisher blood work should look like, and doing some tests with immobilizing drugs to see how the fishers respond to different drugs.
We were on hand when the Game Commission released the first fishers in our area on Game Lands 57. There were a total of 190 fishers trapped in New Hampshire and released at 6 release sites throughout northern Pennsylvania. The fisher is a member of the weasel family, and so is the otter. Otters were reintroduced in the state back in the 80s, and by the year 2016, the otter populations in some part of Pennsylvania were large enough for an otter trapping season. Game Commission biologist Tom Hardisky worked on the program and shared all of the information with our viewers.
You're not going to believe it.
Is that an otter?
Yes, it is.
Are you kidding me?
Nope.
Are you kidding me? Don Kolobuck took advantage of the season and trapped an otter on the opening day. We invited Tom and Don back to the cabin to register Don's catch.
Congratulations, Don.
Thanks,
You're
Don.
one of the first successful trappers.
Yeah, thanks.
How long again since the season?
Well, the last season was in 1951, so it's been 65 years since we've legally taken otters in Pennsylvania.
So he's one of the first in 65 years.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Through reintroduction, clean waterways, and good management, otters can be found in every river system in the state. And I gotta tell you, as the Game Commission realizes some of the other animals that should be either protected or brought back into the state, we promise we'll cover that for you. We're gonna take a short break and we'll be right back.